Hello and welcome back to Trafford Talk. We are back for a match day preview. Today we're previewing Manchester United against AC Milan in the last 16 of the Europa League. It's a big game in our season. It's a big team to play. Before we get into all of it, obviously like and subscribe to the channel. And we've also got an exciting new partnership in the last week or so with Dan Designs, who joins us on the pod today. If you use the code Trafford Talk, you will get 15% off on his designs. But I'll just let Dan kind of give you a brief outline of what the prints are like, what they're all about.
Yeah, thanks, Alexi. So just really quickly, because obviously we're all here for the football talk rather than me and my designs. 15% if you use Trafford Talk at checkout on everything. But I've also got an exclusive discount code for you guys that are watching us right now. Make sure you follow Trafford Talk on Twitter, YouTube, everything. It's Trafford Talk 20. It's going to give you 20% off everything that I do. Minimalist sports prints is essentially what I do. Just to give you a quick idea, probably a good one to show you all. So Alex,
Look at that.
My screens. Yeah, oh, there we go. So this is the kind of thing I do, but I'm working with the guys. I'm going to be helping out with the YouTube channel, that kind of thing. So yeah, Trafford Talk 20 on my Etsy store.
Yeah, it's great. Cheers for that, Dan. I can vouch for how good the designs are. I've got some myself coming. I got a Stormzy one and that Sir Alex Ferguson one as well. So
yeah, it's a popular one.
Yeah, so without further ado, we'll get straight into it. So I'm joined today by Robbie, obviously United Speaks. He's the heartbeat of Trafford Talk, I'd say. We've got obviously Dan Designs, and making his debut today, we have John from the United Way. Absolute pleasure to have you on, and really appreciate you coming on. I just wanted to know, how are you feeling about the season so far? Obviously, we're on a bit of a high after the derby the other day. Things are looking good, and obviously linking it to the Milan game, how important do you think the Europa League is in defining this season as a success?
Well, it is a bit of a high. Beating the noisy neighbours is always a good start to your confidence boost. Anyway, the Europa League is it's somewhat important. It's a BTEC European Cup, so you're better off trying to make yourself look good in it rather than not doing. And AC Milan, they're a prestigious club, and maybe we can capitalize on what's going on in their current situation. Maybe.
Yeah, 100%. They've obviously been blighted by injuries at the moment, haven't they? Dan, how are you feeling about the Europa League? How important do you view it as? Do you think this is something we should be really going for? Or is it something you think we should be resting players in like we did in the past? What's your view on it?
Yeah, it's a weird one. I think that in seasons gone past, certainly post Sir Alex Ferguson, let's face it, it's not been great. I think that it's something that we would have probably normally needed to put a lot of emphasis on. Actually, with our league position this year, obviously we're second in the table and looking like we're probably going to finish in the top four. I hope I haven't jinxed that now, but it's looking pretty good. The Europa League and winning that isn't necessarily as important to get that Champions League spot as it maybe has been in previous seasons where we've struggled with the top four situation. And in terms of winning a trophy as well, we're obviously still in the domestic cups. So is it as important as previous seasons? No. Do I still want us to do well? Yeah. I always want us to do well. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of them, isn't it? This competition is a really nice one if you get all the way and win it. But I think the problem we've had with it over the years is it's the amount of games, isn't it? It's because it's got the extra 2 games the Champions League doesn't have. It's difficult. But I guess, Robbie, would you agree that it kind of feels a bit more fun this year, the Europa League, just because we're playing Real Sociedad and AC Milan? It's not like a few years ago where, with all due respect to the teams we were playing, it was kind of they seemed quite easy games and they weren't that exciting. But do you feel more excited by the Europa League now that we're playing someone like AC Milan?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm obviously from Scotland, so I quite like the fact that Rangers are still in it as well. I like watching them. They're always usually on a different time from United, but I think the Europa League this year, the standard, as you say, it's much higher than what we've seen as years gone by. I wouldn't really say we're outright favourites. We shouldn't be, because there's a lot of great teams in it. And you even look at Spurs. I mean, I know they absolutely bottle every single title. They bottle every charge really that they have, but you still can't rule them out. There's a lot of teams ahead of us at the moment that are still in it, and they look great. So at the start, whenever we get dumped out of the Champions League, I was angry. I didn't really want to know much about the Europa League, but now as time's went on and we've absolutely smashed Real Sociedad 5-0. I'm grown on the fact that it could be our only chance of getting some form of silverware in the league, because I mean, we're not going to obviously win the league. I think we're all understanding of that. The fact that Man City will still run away with it, even though, I mean, that was probably one of my favourite games of the season against Man City at the weekend. There, I was loving it. I even threw a cup of coffee over my girlfriend by accident. Like, I was in shock that Luke Shaw managed to score.
Is that what you do when you're happy, Robbie?
Yeah,
you throw coffee at people.
Yeah, burn my girlfriend. That's what I do.
Why would you waste a good coffee like that? Come on.
Well, if we do win tomorrow, just keep her away from the cappuccino.
Yeah,
just make sure.
it's okay. She's button, so help mom this time.
Good. That's very good. So in terms of Milan, obviously we know from Sunday that we had this thing before that apparently we couldn't beat big teams, but suddenly in the last couple of weeks we beat Real Sociedad, who are a very, very good side. We beat them 4-0, and obviously we beat Manchester City 2-0 on Sunday, who have been touted as the greatest Premier League team ever, and we completely outplayed them. And I think a lot of us got a lot of confidence from that Manchester City game, because there were doubts before, because it's stuff like we hadn't scored against the top six since the Spurs game and stuff like that. But this Milan game is kind of going to be like just a top six game in Europe. But obviously, saying that, while they've had a great season, they're currently second. It's incredible, really. They've been a bit like us in the last decade or so. They've really had a steep decline. They've been hovering around 7th, 8th in the league most of the time, but they've had a massive resurgence this season. And a big part of that, obviously, is players like Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Theo Hernandez, Rebic, players like that. All of them are injured, right? So, 3 of their best players are out. Obviously, Diogo Dalot can play, which is an interesting one, but 3 of their players are out, right? Sure, I know we have injuries, but John, would you agree that this is a really good opportunity to play Milan?
Definitely, 100%. With injuries, you're gonna not obviously have obviously for AC Milan, their star players, which is definitely a plus for Manchester United and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But I don't feel that even if they did have their players, it'd still be much difference. I can't see it, because I feel that as Manchester United, maybe it's a little bit of entitlement, maybe, but I can't see how our squad is any less better than their squad, even if it was at full strength. Yeah, of course, Zlatan's a big player, as obviously he was at Manchester United, and called himself the god of Old Trafford, which I can't agree with, because we've got the king. We've got to think about like the king and stuff like that. It's a bit of a blasphemy, I think. But I'd like to think that we could easily just roll them, but maybe another 4-0, and then in the second leg go and play some youth players. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It's the great thing, isn't it? If we were to get a big result in this first game, you go into the second leg like you did with Sociedad, and in an already congested fixture schedule with FA Cup quarterfinals and obviously the Europa League and the Premier League, you could potentially rest players and maybe give players like Amad Diallo or Cholo Shatire a chance. Robbie, how are you feeling in general about this? Are you feeling confident that, you know, they've got these players out, or are you still? Because personally, I've still got the thing back of my mind. I think it doesn't matter how many injuries they have. Every team that turns up to Old Trafford these days is really up for it, and it's very rare someone doesn't turn up, a team doesn't turn up. So, how are you feeling going into this game? How do you feel about facing them?
Yeah, so as you said, AC Milan have obviously got their act together. They're fighting against Juventus at the moment for the league, but you also need to remember. I mean, we're in that kind of situation as well. We're still high up in the league, and I think injury concerns. I mean, us United. I mean, we've obviously got Rashford out from the ankle injury at the weekend against City, which is a huge loss. And obviously De Gea's missing due to family reasons, but I still think it probably would have been Dean Henderson that would have been playing anyway, so it's not a huge issue. And I'm sure Pogba's meant to miss the game as well. And I think Pogba in a game like this probably would be one of the main issues. The fact that he's not playing, because you know Pogba's in Europe, he does have this influence, and he thrived in Italy under Juventus. And he's one of the best players. And I don't know if you guys know, but AC Milan, their injury concerns are a lot worse than just they're top players. I mean, I really don't know how to say his name, but he's amazing. He's a defensive mid.
Is it?
No.
Is it Benacer?
Yes, Benacer. Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen him a lot this season, and he's probably their glue. You know, like see if you think of the one player who's kind of holding things together, and then starting to kind of influence the attack.
Yeah.
It's Benacer, and he's out of the game. Like they've got a lot of players out. Ante Rebic is out, who's very experienced. He's been around for years. We provide a genuine threat. So it looks as if it's going to be Rafael Leao, who is very young, and I think we'll be going with the same kind of players like that as well. I think we're going with Dan James and possibly even Greenwood and Martial. So we'll have a great, very young lineup as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, obviously, this game, it seems every game we play, you know, in Europe, we play against former players. But this game, we'll see the return of Diego Dallo. He's one of the many players of ours that have gone to Italy. There's about 1 million of them at Inter Milan, AC Milan, Roma, scattered all over the place. Dan, I just wanted to ask you, how do you judge Diego Dallo's time at United so far? Do you think he'll come back? Are you worried about facing him in this? Because he is eligible to play, which is a bit strange, because normally with the loan system, you think he wouldn't be, but he can actually play this game. How do you feel about him as a player?
Yeah, well, to pick up on what you said, actually, I was quite surprised to see that he could play. You know, just normally within a loan contract, you know, they normally put in that they can't play against their parent club. So yeah, that's a strange one. I'm not sure why United haven't put that in there. But in terms of him as a player at United, he had moments, and he's still pretty young. He's doing well over at Milan. I think he scored maybe the weekend or the week for them recently anyway. I think that, he will come back to United. And actually, I think we probably need him. You know, you look at the amount of minutes that Wan-Bissaka's playing for United, that there's just nobody challenging him for that right back position, and nobody's actually given him a rest. And I think that's something that United have struggled with this season. You know, obviously Rashford's injured, Fernandes is played every minute pretty much. So I do think that he should come back, and I think that having those two together would be good for that right back position, definitely.
Can I just quickly throw a kind of curveball out there, because I mean, just in the last kind of hour, Here We Go podcast, Richard Romano did put out that United will be in the market for a right back. So maybe, I mean, Dallo has been playing left back for AC Milan to fill in as well. So possibly, as Dan said, we do kind of need the cover, but we've obviously got Telles and Luke Shaw, who, I mean, probably 2 of the best 5, let's say, in the league. We don't really need a third. So right back, if we're in the market for another right back, then surely Dallo will possibly move on. I don't know. It's just a thought.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, absolutely.
We have been linked to like players like Max Arns in the past, who I think would probably serve more purpose at United rather than Diego Dallo. I feel as if Diego Dallo gets a lot of credit for stuff that he's not really done. But yeah, obviously I wish him the best, just not against United.
Yeah, tomorrow.
That's it, isn't it? It's kind of difficult to judge him as overall because we didn't really see much of him. But I mean, my gut feeling is that I don't think he'll come back because it seems Ollie just didn't seem to fancy him. But for me, I think in the right back spot, I think we should be bringing Ethan Laird back potentially if he continues to do well on loan. But obviously, we'll see how he does because we don't want to rush him into it. Getting on to how we want to set up for this game. So Milan recently have dropped points to Inter, Atlanta, and in the Europa League. And the interesting thing is all of those games that they drop points in were against teams that play 3 at the back. And it got me thinking whether it might be a possibility we may go with a 3 back. Obviously, it's difficult with the personnel, and I'm not sure how much Ollie will adapt his game for Milan, whether we'll just play our own game. But yeah, I just wanted to know, John, do you think there is a possibility we could play 3 at the back to negate Milan?
Well, when was the last time we played 3 at the back? Was it against Arsenal, wasn't it? Was it after the PSG game?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm not 100% sure if Ollie is actually comfortable with his team to do that, because you're looking at 5 at the back and then 2 holding midfielders. It's a lot in defence, isn't it? And I'm not confident that he'd do that. I feel that he enjoys to use that 4-2-3-1 formation, and with that formation, he has a set personnel that would normally play in that. I feel that with the success that we have been getting with that is something that he probably just keep going, because again, personnel is another issue. Like you're gonna have to probably do Harry Maguire, Victor Lindelof, and Bailey in the 3 defenders, and we can't afford to, if one of them picks up an injury, to not rotate in other games. So it is a possibility that he brings it back. But if I was gonna be a betting man, I wouldn't put a tenner on it, let alone my life.
Yeah, that's the difficult thing about it, isn't it? Because even if Ollie did want to do it, we're just so short of centre backs, and I guess you could put Luke Shaw at left centre back, but then we lose how good he's been at left wing back or left back. We can't lose him going forward because we saw how good he was against City. But Dan, how would you line up in defence? Would you go with 4? Would you go with 3? And who would you pick?
Yeah, I think what you just said, Alexi, is absolutely correct. The having the 5 at the back would mean sacrificing Luke Shaw and putting him my centre back. I don't think he would play by Maguire and Lindelof all together. So I do think that we go for at the back, and I think it's just the 4 that played at the weekend. I don't see any reason to change it. They're clearly merging as a solid defensive partnership. Lindelof, I know he has his doubters, but actually in a game like this against AC Milan, I think he will be there alongside Maguire. Wan-Bissaka, of course, we've discussed it, is pretty much the only right back option. Rest of the team, it's difficult to say, isn't it? There's so many options in that midfield. We've got about 7 central midfielders, it feels like. I honestly think that, going back to what you said at the very start, Alexi, whether or not we should rotate, in the Europa League this year? I think we should. I don't see why we can't give some of the younger players a chance. I don't see why he has to go with his preferred starting 11 tomorrow night. So I really can't call the lineup, but I do think there should be some rotation in there for sure.
Yeah. It's the conundrum, isn't it? The rotation question, because you think we kind of do need to, because we've just played City, which is a really intense game, and then obviously we've got a game on the Sunday, and it's kind of so crammed together. But Robbie, do you think Ollie will rotate? I mean, how do you see him lining up in defence? Do you think we'll see a difference in maybe the left backs or maybe someone else at right back, or do you think it will be largely the same as the City game?
Yeah, I think we'll see Alex Telles in Europe because, I mean, Luke Shaw is playing amazing. You know, he's hitting numbers and just things we've never seen from him before, really. And yes, he's now experienced and he knows what he's doing. But I feel as if with players like that, you need to nurture them. He can't be playing every game of the season like Wan-Bissaka. Wan-Bissaka isn't hitting the numbers like what he did last season because, you know, he's playing every minute, every single game, which isn't good for any player, especially whenever you're travelling all over Europe at points. And I would definitely go with Alex Telles because we still need to remember this, he's still one of the best left backs in the league, still one of the best left backs in the world, I would say as well. At Porto, he was definitely their best player on the attacking sense and defensive sense. People always get this kind of mixed up. I feel where everyone says, well, Alex Telles, he can only attack. It's not true. What I've seen of him so far as well at United, I think that also backs it up. I think he's been very solid. Good with the ball at his feet. It's just Luke Shaw's been better. So I think he does deserve a chance in Europe. However, I think we'll still stick with Lindelof, Maguire and Wan-Bissaka. But as I said, I would like to swap out Wan-Bissaka and give him a rest. But we simply can't because there's no cover.
Yeah.
That's the problem, isn't it? That's why we've had to play Wan-Bissaka in virtually every game. I mean,
definitely.
he even played in, was it the FA Cup? Was it the third or the fourth round when we played West Ham? I remember he played 90 minutes. And I didn't want him to be there. You know, I just wanted him to get a bit of rest. And I think it's a problem with the balance in the squad at the moment, isn't it? That like we have two really great left backs and about 10 million goalkeepers. But when it comes to right back, it's like, it's literally only Wan-Bissaka there.
Yeah, he played against Luton, for example, in the EFL Cup.
That's exactly it. It's a prime example of a game where you go, he's got to get rested for this, and he doesn't, because I guess the facts are
there's literally no one. Like, you know, we
no
definitely do need to sign someone or bring back Dallo. But yeah, as you said, Alexei, it doesn't seem as if he's in all his plans. So I feel as if we will need to sign a right back because I know Ethan Laird is great and he's been playing very well for MK Dons, but you also need to remember he really has his own injury concerns as well. And it would just be great to obviously nurture him, possibly send him out maybe another year on loan, I would say, in the Championship. Maybe, you never even know, maybe the Premier League from one of the promotion teams, and he can hopefully thrive off that.
Yeah, 100%. It'd be great to see him breaking into the team because we've seen like in recent years, obviously McTominay, Rashford, Greenwood, obviously Henderson, Brandon as well. Like we've seen quite a few come through, and it would be great to see him come through as well. And obviously it would just save a position we don't have to spend money on. But moving on to the midfield, John, how do you see Ollie setting up the midfield? Because so two players who I think really were in with a shout of playing this game would have been Van der Beek and Juan Mata, but both of them are injured. So how do you see Ollie setting up?
I could see Matic coming in for a little bit of stability and experience, maybe alongside Fred, but they're probably going to get maybe McTominay and Fred as your holding, and obviously you're going to have Bruno as your attacking midfielder. It's well, like everyone's been saying about we should be like maybe rotating a few players. I wouldn't mind seeing Galbraith get a run in that game. There's no harm in it because it's experience. Maybe you might go out on loan next season, but the idea is for the here and now. And if you can give maybe one pair of legs a rest, you can then use them more efficiently in the league game. But we know what Ollie's like currently with the pressure that he has from media and Twitter alike. He sort of has to play, more strength teams because he's expected to get a trophy. Doesn't matter if it's the FA Cup, Europa League or whatever. They want something to say like, you've done something this season. So that is where his hands will be tied. I'm saying I would like to see Galbraith if I could have like anybody in the sort of sitting role, not on his own obviously, but next to somebody.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you with Galbraith. I think he's kind of been on the periphery for a bit, hasn't he? And he's kind of waiting to break in and get his opportunity. And it is very true what you said about the pressure on Ollie's under now to get a trophy, because a lot of our fan base and a lot of pundits in general kind of seem to have come to the conclusion that even if we come second, Ollie is still a bottler without a trophy, which I personally think is completely crazy, to be honest. I think the team's made a lot of progression this season. I think obviously it would be brilliant to win a trophy. I don't think we can count second as a trophy or anything like that. But it's a sign of progression as a football team, isn't it? And if you want to win league titles, you need to progress as the seasons go on. And yeah, it would be brilliant to win a trophy. I think we need one, but I just think the criticism aimed at him just seems a bit unfair because, you've got to remember, like, I know people always equate the two managers, but Jurgen Klopp, for example, obviously they're very different managers. I'm not comparing them in terms of quality or anything, but people forget Jurgen Klopp lost a lot of finals before he won the big ones with Liverpool. And it reminds me, the narrative then is similar to the narrative now with Ollie. It's kind of like, oh, he's a semi-final bottler and everything like this. And it's like, well, I don't buy it, really. I just think, we face pretty good teams in the semi-final and we've lost and it's annoying, but it's just what's happened. Dan, how do you see Ollie setting up the midfield?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question because obviously I've said that I want to see rotation, but I also agree with what John's saying about the fact that you almost feel like Ole has to put out a full strength squad, because if he puts out I'd say a lesser quality side, give some of the other guys a run out, and then we lose, it's not the players that will take the blame. It's Ole that's going to take the blame. So I would like to see some rotation. I would like to see some of the the more I guess experienced players come in, like Matic, for example. It's always great to give youth a chance, but I do think that it's always important to have that experience there as well. I have been a critic of Matic this year. In pre-season, I think he's been good, but I do think that he's come towards the back end of his career now, definitely. But I would like to see him in a game like this for sure. So I think that he, alongside, maybe Fred, with Bruno, obviously in that central attacking midfield position. I'm curious to see what he's going to do with the wings, actually, because I think with Rashford out, we've not had that situation all season long. Rashford's played. Obviously, we've discussed it pretty much every minute out there on the left, and that one game on the right that we don't really want to talk about. But yeah, so I'm not too sure what he's going to do with the wings. Is he maybe going to play Dan James on the right, Martial on the left? Is he going to give Diallo a chance on the left? Maybe. I'm not sure. But I think that Dan James definitely deserves a spot, just pure from his form, his work ethic, and I think he deserves the opportunity to play in a big game against a big team like AC Milan. So I think, like I said, I think I've got it. What I think he's going to go is Matic, Fred, Dan James on the right, Fernandez in the centre, and I'm honestly not sure on the left there. It's an interesting one without Rashford, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a conundrum without Rashford, because the problem is he's always there every game, isn't he? He's always pretty much the first name on the team sheet. He doesn't get rested really at all.
Yeah.
And I think that's one criticism you can maybe aim at Ollie a bit. I think he does need to manage Rashford a bit more carefully. And I think he could have done with a bit more of a rest before this point, because obviously he is injured now. Robbie, do you agree with Dan that Dan James deserves to start? Because I think it's a really good shout, because he's really improved in recent weeks. His end product's got a lot better, and he's really good against big teams, isn't he, in this kind of game?
Yeah, I think Dan James will start on the left, because at the end of the day, that is his natural position. Obviously, he's just not had a chance to play it because of, as you said, Rashford is the first name on the team sheet, usually, him or Maguire, and usually fills that role. But now, obviously, because he's injured, I think Dan James deserves a chance out in the left, because, as Dan said, his work ethic and, I mean, his general form is just improved. Looked a lot better since he's had a run-in of games, which he's been struggling with from the rest of this season and last season. But people have been very harsh on him, I feel, because Dan James is always going to be a squad player, but at the moment, he's came in, doing his job whenever we've seen injuries, and I can't ask for any more. But then, I mean, whenever we go and talk about midfield, for me, I think this game just now, because obviously AC Milan will bring players back in, and possibly I've seen that Zlatan may possibly come back in the second leg. He's fighting for fitness to come back and play in a play against us. I think we need to really finish off the game in the first leg before the second leg even starts in Milan, because you look at it and you think, right now they've got Rebic, Hakan Çalhanoğlu, who's got 8 assists this season. You look at obviously Zlatan, Theo Hernandez, Benacer, the list goes on, and we don't have that real concern because we've got the squad depth, we've got the players who can go and stand in and get the job done. And I mean, whenever you look at it and you look at these players, I think we definitely need to go McTominay and Fred and Bruno, because their midfield at the moment will not be great. For what I've seen, their midfield over the past few weeks, there's actually been some names in there that I've not even recognised. And as I said, Rafael Leao up front, who is very young. Whereas I think we literally need to make sure they don't get an away goal, get a few goals at home, and basically grind out the result at the San Siro. And possibly, you never know, we could play the youngsters in that case. But I think going off the first leg, I would play it safe, get the win, get the clean sheet, come home, and I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think the McTominay and Fred thing is a good shout, because, you know, they were so brilliant against City the other day. They were like the McTominay Fred of last season, because this season in certain games they've not been as effective, or maybe they have been effective, but we've not necessarily needed them in the situations that Ollie's put them in. But I thought against City, they were just brilliant. I don't think we win that game without McTominay and Fred. I think you guys might have seen this video. There was a video circulating on Twitter showing how we beat the City press. And Fred and McTominay were really big parts of that. And I think, yeah, they, especially in a game like this, they are the perfect fits, I think. But coming into the attack, it's an interesting one. Obviously, Rashford is out. And I guess the question is, obviously, Martial had a really good game against City. The question is really, would you start Cavani or Martial, or would you put Martial on the wing? John, what are you thinking?
Well, I was talking to one of my mates about this because of obviously Rashford's injury, and I feel that possibilities of having Tony on the left, Greenwood up front, with Dan James on the right. Of course, obviously, I know it's not Dan James' real position; it's more on the left. But that's where he's been used to playing for Manchester United, and I wouldn't mind Cavani, but I think Cavani's more like once you've had 60, 70 minutes of constant running at you by Greenwood or Tony, whoever up front, the players are going to be knackered. And that's the time to probably bring on someone who's, got a bit more like streetwise because he's got experience. If he knows he's fresh coming on against non-fresh players, he could possibly have that extra, touch of speed that the defenders don't have. Plus, his movement is second to none, really, isn't it? Like, he knows where to move. He makes 2 or 3 dashes before even the balls come to make sure, it's a difficult one because the possibilities, I wouldn't say endless, but, you could easily have, as Dan said, James on the left, play Tony up front with Greenwood on the right. So, but if it was me, I would just go for Martial on the left, Greenwood up front, and James on the right. And I feel that would be a good counter-attacking option because if we can break at speed, maybe go back to the United of last season under Ollie, because we were more counteractive than we were now, where we're proactive, where we take the ball and sit in someone's half. And you can't really utilize your players' speed if you're trying to pass it around the midfield and obviously try and tuck it between defenders that really don't mind in Italy to defend. So it's catch-22 in my eyes. Like, you can probably do anything you want. So
yeah, definitely. It's kind of in a way, it's a good problem to have, isn't it? We've got
definitely
quite a few talented players, and like you said, we can switch their positions. They're so interchangeable. Dan, how do you feel about Martial now? Obviously, he'd been in an appalling run of form. I'm just going to be honest about it for quite a long time.
Yeah.
But on Sunday, he was absolutely superb, wasn't he? He was just brilliant from start to finish, I thought. Do you think he will now kick on from this burst of form he had against City?
You would hope so. But I think with Martial, I think he loves the game of football, clearly, but I think that sometimes he struggles with. He's clearly a fit lad. He knows. I'm sure his work ethic is great. I'm sure he trains hard. He's very rarely injured, actually. So he must look after himself. But I think that on the physical side of things, I think he's great. But I think mentally is where he struggles. If he goes into a bad run of form, maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3 games where he doesn't score a goal, that really gets to him. And you can see when he comes off the pitch as well, when he's not scored, if he gets substituted, he really doesn't look happy. And I know he doesn't look happy even when he scored a hat-trick, but you can really tell with him sometimes that his head's not there. And I think that's just something that he struggled with at United ever since he came, over from Monaco. He's 25 now, so it's not like he's not had the experience in the Premier League. He's had plenty of time to really solidify himself in that United team and kick on and do what we expected from him when we paid all that money from him from Monaco as a youngster. He's had his moments. I think he's a good footballer, but I think by the age of 25, he really what is he, 6 seasons into his United career now. I really think that he should be doing more than he is. So I like him as a footballer. I think he's still got some wiggle room in terms of his potential. Do I think he's going to kick on and be that all-star that we maybe thought he would be? I don't think so, which is difficult to say because I do really like him. But maybe one of those ones that actually needs to leave United for the good of his own career, like others that have gone, like Depay, for example, who's played really well in the French league. I don't want him to go, but maybe it's something that might have to happen.
Yeah, it is a difficult one, isn't it? Because he's been here so long now, like you said, and we all want him to do well and we all love him. But at some point, there has to be a kind of definitive moment where he either improves massively or maybe he has to move on for his sake and the club's sake.
Robbie... Sorry, I was just going to say, it seems so crazy to say that just very quickly, because last season he had his best season in the United shirt, 17 goals in the league. But apart from that, all the other seasons that he's had with us have been mediocre, including this year in particular. So yeah, apart from last season, it's not been what we would have expected from him. But yeah, sorry guys, I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, it's a good point that, it was this time last year he was having the best season of his life, isn't it? So it shows how quickly football can change. Robbie, how do you feel about Martial like that, and how do you see Ollie approaching it in the attack tomorrow? Do you think Martial will play?
Yeah, I think Martial will just start up front, with, as I said, with Dan James on the left and Greenwood on the right. Because, Martial obviously played very well against Manchester City on the weekend. And as Dan said, he's one of those players where I don't want to let him go, but I do want to let him go because it'll probably benefit his career. But then we'll look back in 5 years' time, whenever he's hitting his prime, and be like, we've missed out on a world-class player, who's playing at PSG or whoever. And I think that will happen. But yeah, I do really like Martial. However, I feel as if possibly his time's maybe up at United, because if we can put that money, let's say, towards signing a player like Haaland, for example, who is just a completely different breed, I think most United fans would be up for that one.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah,
definitely.
Especially with what Haaland's doing at the moment.
Yeah, did you guys see his goal last night that was disallowed, and he completely bulldozed through the full Sevilla team, shoulder tackled Diego Carlos, which is it's in the rule book, and it got an amazing finish. Like, you look at Martial and a completely different type of player, and you think, would he even have the confidence to try and take those players on in that position?
Yeah,
you just don't know. True. You just don't know what player you're going to get. I feel as if there's so many different styles in Martial, where sometimes he whips the ball in the top corner from outside the box, and then you got other times where he's putting it into outer space, hits me in the face the ball through my window. It's one of those things where it will be a shame whenever he leaves.
Yeah, definitely. I think it will be a very sad day because he's loved by the whole fan base. We sing the Tony Marshall song every game. Yep. It's one of my favourite songs to sing at games because it's so catchy.
I'm going to say the same thing as well. I love singing that song.
Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it? It's probably comfortably the most catchy song.
Yeah.
But coming on to score predictions, John, how do you see the game going, and what score are you going to go for?
Well, I wouldn't mind saying another Real Sociedad sort of scoreline, like 4-0, because it's at home, isn't it? The first leg, isn't it? Yeah, thought so. So definitely need to keep a clean sheet, so we're not going to have an away goal to try and cancel out when we go to the San Siro. So yeah, I think 4-0 would be a nice good victory. But even if you just like do the City one,
I love that
like
optimism.
2-0. yeah, definitely need some optimism because at the end of the day, right, I see it as this: we've just beaten probably the best team in Europe right now in Manchester City. So I've said there's no point of going and beating City comfortably and then trying to just like drag your heels in any other game, because you should take that confidence now and think, well, you've beaten the best. Anybody else underneath that should just be very easy, and hopefully we don't be complacent and think just because we did that we can just walk any team. You have to put the same effort in and put the same sort of intensity in, and you will get out of the game what you put into it. So yeah, I'm not going to say the 2-0. I will say 4-0, and I feel like there's going to be a Bruno masterclass, and Dan James will score as well.
This is what we need. We need optimism. I completely agree. We've got to kick on from this City result and hopefully carry it on towards, to the end of the season. Dan, what are you going for? Can I hear some more optimism? It's cheering me up.
Listen, I'm always optimistic going into United games. At the weekend, I was chatting to a couple of my mates just before the game, and one of my friends sent into the group chat. So what score are we losing to United? I'll start again. What score are we losing by today, boys? And I just said, come on, mate. Let's have a bit of optimism from you. Where's the positivity? We do a good performance, and we tend to show up against the big teams this season. And we did. And I'm going into this game with the exact same mindset. I think that coming off of a massive win against City at the weekend is going to fill the lads with so much confidence. I think that the fact that we're at home in the first leg is important. And I think that the win is even more important by a good margin. So I'm thinking maybe 2-3-0. But the thing with AC Milan, if you look at the league tables, just very quickly, you'll see that we're actually in very, very similar positions in the league. Obviously, second in terms of position, but goals scored, goals against, points, the amount of points we are both behind first in the table. So they have a very, very similar season to us, albeit their top goal scorer in Ibrahimovic is out, albeit their top assists in Hakan Çalhanoğlu is out. So they are struck by injury, which we've discussed. So yeah, I think that we will win 2, maybe 3-0, and it's important to get that result. The final thing I just want to say on that as well, it's a good job that the fans are currently not allowed into the stadiums, because I've been to a game at AC Milan. I've been to the San Siro, and they are crazy over there. So United will benefit in the second leg with the fans not being in the stadium in Milan. However, if you look at it the same at Old Trafford, obviously our fans are fantastic, and I'm sure that would have helped us in the first leg. So yeah, I'm thinking 2-3-0.
Yeah, Robbie, what are you saying?
Yeah, so I'm going to stay optimistic as well, like Dan and like John. I'm going to go with 3-0. And as I said, as long as we put out a strong team, possibly let's say Alex Telles, which is still very strong, but it's obviously not first choice, I think we could comfortably beat AC Milan, because as we've all said, they're not at the level that they're usually at, because they're missing some key players. I say some, basically all their key players are out. In midfield, we need to dominate the midfield. I think it would be pretty easy without really their backbone. And yeah, a Bruno Fernandes penalty as well would be nice. Along with, I'm going to go with Bruno Fernandes penalty to settle the nerves. Dan James, just because I hope he gets a goal, and Mason Greenwood as well.
Brilliant. Yeah,
What about you, Alexei?
Yeah,
Alexei's always wrong. But
yeah,
with predictions.
I'm not known for getting my score predictions right, unfortunately, as I've showed in the last few weeks. But I'm not going to let it bring me down. So I'm going to go 4-0, and
wow,
it's just going to be brilliant, and we're going to really enjoy it, even though it's a strange time. 6 o'clock on a Thursday, bit of a weird time, but I think we're going to love it. 4-0 FC will return. But with that, all of that
Wow.
bundle of optimism from us being said, that will be all for this preview. I will be back for a match review straight after the game. Thank you so much, John, for coming on today. You can find him on Twitter in the United Way. Is there anywhere else?
Effect on Twitter.
OGS Effect on Twitter. Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. Hopefully you'll come back on again soon.
Yeah, always welcome.
100%.
Dan, thank you for coming on as well. Obviously, we've left your the link to your website in the description. So if people want to go on and use the codes, they can go on and do that. Robbie, as ever, thank you very much. And we will see you all for the preview.